MMA Boxing Talk here. This is a prediction video for Daniel Cormier versus Jon Jones 2. This is an extremely highly anticipated rematch. Everyone in the MMA world is excited for this fight. Let's get right into it. The Jones versus Cormier rivalry is already 3 years old. 3 years old already. Because 3 years ago, they had that fight on stage during that face-off, and that's where it all started. That's where the bad blood really began, and everyone, was exposed to it. Now, I'm sure Jon Jones doesn't see Cormier as a rival. Jones did thoroughly beat him the first time, which was already 2.5 years ago. Cormier first fought Jon Jones. It was at UFC 182. And, that fight was it was a competitive fight for the first 10-15 minutes, relatively competitive. But the last 2 rounds, Cormier, Jon Jones broke him, he really did in those last 2 rounds. You can make a case that Cormier won 1 round. I really don't see him winning 2 rounds in that fight. I only gave him the 2nd round. And, you can make an argument that Jon Jones won that round and that he won all 5 rounds. But I think 4 rounds to 1, Jon Jones was a fair assessment of that fight. And many people right now are saying that Jon Jones is not the same fighter as he once was. And they're basing that off of, that the OSP performance, He didn't look his best against OSP for Jon Jones standard. He still did great. He still made OSP, not look dangerous. There wasn't a moment in that fight where OSP looked like he was dangerous and he was going to knock Jon Jones out. Jon Jones totally controlled him, using his distance and striking, and it was a very smart fight. He didn't take any risks. And I think a big part of that, the reason why he fought so cautiously against OSP, and some people are taking it as a bad performance, he fought OSP on short notice. And for those of you who don't know, Jon Jones extensively studies his opponent's film and fights. He gets to know his opponent's best move, his second best move, his third best move, the shots that he gets hit with. Jon Jones gets to know his opponent very, very well, and he didn't have that time to do that with OSP, and maybe that's why he fought so conservatively. And let's not forget, Jon Jones hadn't fought in 1 year and 4 months when he fought OSP. He was training for Daniel Cormier. He was training 7-8 months for Daniel Cormier, and then all of a sudden, 2 weeks before the fight, oh, you're fighting OSP. Training camp's almost over. He still went through with it, and he won the fight. Didn't take any chances. But now he's fighting Daniel Cormier, who he knows like the back of his hand, who he's fought before, who he can go back to their first fight and dissect that first fight. And Jon Jones has the abilities and the tools to really make the adjustments. He has the best game planner with Greg Jackson. And Daniel Cormier, I don't really see how he can improve from the first fight. He's only gotten older. He went through a crazy war with Alexander Gustafsson, which, I'm sure took a few years off his life. And he had another surgery, at least one surgery since the first fight with Jon Jones. And, just the wear and tear. I think Cormier's had 4 fights since the Jones fight. Jon Jones only turned 30 like last week. He's taken almost 0 damage in the last 2 years. He's had time to work on his jiu-jitsu. He just got his blue belt. I mean, this was a guy who I believe has the most submissions at the light heavyweight division, and he was doing it as a white belt. He just got his blue belt, which is absurd. This guy is so talented. And my prediction is Jon Jones is going to win this fight. I think he's going to win a decision. I do believe that it'll be more decisive than the first fight. I truly believe that. The beginning of the fight, maybe Cormier will have some good moments, but I think Jon Jones is going to break DC's will a lot earlier in this fight. I truly believe that. I could see by the end of the 2nd round, Jon Jones really putting some damage on Daniel Cormier, and I think he's going to fight a little different in this fight. I think in the first fight he wanted to prove that he could outgrind DC because DC was, calling himself the king of the grind. John Jones went in there and outgrinded DC. In this fight, I see Jones doing that, but also using his distance, keeping DC at range, using his kicks, not getting into the clinch work because that's where DC thrives in the clinch, And I don't think Jones is going to initiate the clinch as much this time. We'll see, maybe not. DC's not a hard guy to find in there. He's going to be coming straight at John Jones. And I think, John Jones, if he uses more side kicks to the stomach, that just, stops opponents right in their tracks when you get a side kick to the gut. He does his oblique kicks, and I think he kicked DC in the neck and chest a couple times. But I just see John Jones trying to fight from distance a little bit more in this fight, mix it up maybe more as well. But I see John Jones winning, like I said, a unanimous decision, more decisive than the first one. I think there is a chance that maybe John Jones could get a late decision or late stoppage. I think maybe a late TKO via ground and pound or maybe a submission. But I think it would have to come late, and it's going to be tough to put DC away. So that's why I'm going with unanimous decision for John Jones. I mean, let's be honest. The UFC needs John Jones right now. Ronda Rousey's gone. Conor McGregor is off doing boxing. Who knows if he'll be back in the UFC this year. And, even Dana White, who can't stand John Jones. Dana White cannot stand John Jones. And even he admitted that the UFC needs John Jones right now. And, I don't believe that was just to promote the fight, because this fight is going to be, people are going to buy this fight. This fight doesn't need any more promotions. There's enough promos out there on this fight, and they have just so much history and rivalry that you don't need to hype this fight. So it's the truth. The UFC does need John Jones right now. He's arguably the greatest of all time. I believe he is, and he definitely has the best resume. I mean, try to find a better mixed martial artist that has a better resume than John Jones. I mean, you just can't. He's beat I don't know how many former champions. I'm pretty sure he beat 6 Hall of Famers, and everyone talks about, oh, they were past their prime. I mean, when John Jones was fighting all these guys, once he won the belt and he was fighting the Machitas and the Vitors and the Rampages and the Shoguns, these guys were still in their late 20s, early 30s. They were still seen as elite fighters, and that division before John Jones got there, that division was, they were passing that belt around like a hot potato. And I believe without John Jones, that division would have continued to, have new champions, because they were all very equal fighters. They were all very skilled. But John Jones was on a whole other level, and he came in and wiped them all out. And now he's 30 years old. He's had a real bad rough patch the last 2-3 years. Hasn't really been fighting lately. This is a guy that has the opportunity to come back, reclaim himself as a pound for pound number one, add to his legacy, and really cement himself as the undisputed greatest of all time, because people are still disputing it till this day that Silva was better, maybe George St. Pierre was better, but John Jones, he doesn't really have to do a whole lot more to really, cement himself as the greatest of all time. He got to get past DC again, which he's done before. I think, if he gets past DC, the next fight is Alexander Gustafsson. John Jones, that was his toughest fight. Gustafsson's coming off of a great performance. But once again, I see John Jones winning that rematch. And John Jones right now has 8 title defenses. So it would probably take a year or two to finally break the record. I'm guessing Mighty Mouse, once he gets to 11, which is going to be in September, he's going to break Anderson Silva's record. I assume that he's going to move up to 135. and challenge some of the elite guys. Maybe have a super fight with the champion up there. So John Jones, would have to defend his title 4 times, and he would break Mighty Mouse's record, and then possibly move up to heavyweight. I'm not sure, but it's going to be an interesting fight. I think DC, I really don't see him doing that much better. Um, he's really only gotten older. He hasn't improved. He hasn't evolved with the times. So that's it for this one, though. I just wanted to put out a official prediction. Can't wait for this one. It's a stack card. Stay tuned for more predictions on the other fights on the main card. That's it for this one. If you like the video, subscribe. Check me out on Twitter at MMA Boxing Talk 1. Peace.